If you're looking for Pokemon-like games that are just better in general, then this video is for you. I'm going to be showing you 10 Steam games that are like Pokemon, just better. If you're not aware, there's a tag you can use on Steam when you're searching for new games. It's called Creature Collector. If you filter based on that, you're going to find a ton of games just like this one. Beautiful pixel art, great monster designs. So today I'm going to be showing you 10 of those games that are all playable on the Steam Deck. Welcome back to the channel, my nerds. Hope you're having a great day. Let's get into it. Coming in on number 1 on my list is Coromon. It's a modern take on classic Pokemon, but with a very vibrant pixel art, slick quality of life updates, and a surprising focus on the story, which involves you playing as a researcher for a high-tech corporation, unraveling a mystery involving elemental titans and interdimensional threats. Think Pokemon meets light sci-fi. Instead of PP, moves use a shared stamina pool, making battle decisions more tactical. Its potential system replaces the hidden IVs, giving players visible stats and control over growth. You also have built-in Nuzlocke and randomizer modes that make it a dream for challenge runners and competitive fans. Creature designs strike a good balance between charming and combat ready, which is a big criticism with more recent Pokemon designs, and the type matchups are easy to learn without being shallow. Coromon doesn't reinvent the genre by any means, but it does polish it, respects your time, and adds just enough depth to keep veterans and newcomers hooked, and of course, it looks beautiful on the Steam Deck. This next title has been recommended to me so many times and for good reason. It's called Cassette Beasts. Now at first glance, it looks like a quirky indie ripoff of Pokemon, until you hit the fusion system, and suddenly it becomes something so much deeper. It's set in a strange liminal world called New World, and this game casts you as a stranger washed up on an island where people record monsters onto cassette tapes. The whole aesthetic is analog media, vaporwave, light visuals, and urban exploration. It sets a tone for an experience that feels wholly original, even though it clearly draws inspiration from Pokemon. The monster design is bold, creative, and often strange, but in a really good way. You don't just summon your creatures, you actually become them. This transformation mechanic is not just visual flavor, it actually directly influences battle tactics, because the real crown jewel here is the fusion system. As I mentioned before, any two creatures can become fully combined into a fully animated hybrid with stats, types, and moves that reflect both of these quote-unquote parents. The result is thousands of possible forms and strategic team building options that are shockingly robust for a game of this size and price. Exploration is very much familiar to a Zelda-light experience. You have overworld traversal, ability-gated areas, and light environmental puzzles. The world is handcrafted and dense, with meaningful side quests and secrets and lore all baked into one little game. Combat uses a turn-based AP-driven system that rewards synergy, status effects, and combo execution over just brute force. The elemental typing system is also more complex than it at first appears, involving more than just matchups, but status interactions. Think of fire melts ice and electrifies water. Beyond gameplay, the story is emotionally beautiful. It's also delightfully weird. Themes of identity, transformation, community, and self-acceptance permeate the narrative. It's inclusive, introspective, and often quite funny. If you grew up on Pokemon, you're going to love this game, and it, again, feels just absolutely amazing on the Steam Deck. This next title should be no surprise if you are a repeat customer on this channel, and that is Persona 4 Golden. Although it's not a traditional monster-catching game, Persona 4 earns its place in the genre for the way it uses collection and fusion mechanics, and the way that it fuels its turn-based combat system. This game centers on the Velvet Room's fusion system, which allows players to collect, level up, and combine personas, which is this game's version of monsters. They're mythological and psychological entities that represent different parts of the human soul. Each persona belongs to an arcana, which is really just tarot card archetypes, which interact in fusion math that quickly becomes both addictive and essential to mastering the game. Essentially, you can combine multiple monsters to get even more powerful versions of them. But unlike games where creatures are external tools, Persona 4 binds its monsters to the player's inner growth. The stronger your real-life bonds with people in the town become, the more powerful your fusions become. This interweaving of character relationships and monster strength is honestly one of the best parts of this game. The story leans really heavy into the small town high school serial killer vibe, but the real beauty, in my opinion, is the actual collection of these monsters in the dungeons. In battle, elemental weaknesses and turn economy are king. The one more system encourages smart targeting, while buffs and debuffs and fusions become increasingly vital vital on higher difficulties. There's no catching in the traditional sense. Personas are obtained through a randomized shuffle mechanic minigame after every single battle. But the real thrill of creating a perfect monster through careful planning scratches the same itch, if you will, as raising a precious little Charizard. Adding a legendary soundtrack, unforgettable characters, it's one of the most iconic JRPG experiences ever made, and it's honestly unbelievable on the Steam Deck. This next game is actually the sponsor for this video, and that is Dokimon Quest. It's a retro-style monster-catching RPG that leans hard into the GBA-era Pokemon nostalgia while carving out its own identity through dark humor, high difficulty, and a distinctive fusion of old-school aesthetics and modern ideas. It really nails the 32-bit look, bright sprite work, beautiful art, chunky battle menus, and quirky creature designs that feel equal parts Digimon and Earthbound. But behind the cutesy style is a surprisingly challenging and complex game. The world is non-linear and full of beautiful secrets, branching paths, and even optional bosses, and a story that oscillates between goofy and weirdly ominous. The core of Dokimon Quest lies in its customizable monsters, which is just a beautiful part of this game. You evolve creatures down different paths, unlocking ability trees, and you fuse them into hybrids and unpredictable results. Battles are turn-based but tough, where status effects actually matter, team composition matters, and button mashing your way through it just will not cut it. It's still a work in progress, but I love supporting indie developers, and again, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. This game is beautiful and it looks great on the Steam Deck, so go check it out. This next title I am particularly fond of, and it's because I played one of the precursor titles. This game is called Siralim Ultimate, and it's not just a game, it's quite literally a spreadsheet in RPG form, and I mean that in the best way possible. This is the monster taming equivalent of a bottomless pit of system stats and synergies plus endgame content. If Pokemon is a light beer, Siralim Ultimate is a barrel-aged imperial stout with 5,000 ingredients in a 45-minute pour time. You don't just collect monsters, you amass an army of them. Over 1,200 creatures, each with unique abilities that synergize with others in the wild, with emergent possibilities. You get to build a team of 6, but the real hook is the ability to create brutal combos that stack the effects, like status ailments, stat boost debuffs, and even death triggers and revive chains. Some builds are so absurd that they feel like programmatic logic puzzles more than creature tactics. What really makes this game so special is the procedural world building. There's no set story, only the framework of a divine war and your role as a summoner king climbing the ranks of godhood. You explore randomly generated realms, each filled with enemies, treasures, crafting materials, and quests, and the game loops are quite literally infinite, each with new realms, new difficulty tiers, and new mutations raising the ceiling of difficulty. Customization is practically unlimited. You craft gear, enchant it, reroll it, build castles, unlock perks. There's so much in this game, and every system feeds into one another. Grinding is the point, but it's also addicting, and it's also so fun on the Steam Deck. There's no hand-holding, no visual dazzle, and very little story, but it's great for players who crave the ultimate sandbox of mechanics with a dash of Pokemon familiarity. This next game is a fun one. It's called Nexomon Extinction. It's the rare clone that manages to outgrow its label, while clearly drawing inspiration from classic Pokemon, complete with wild grass, random encounters, and type-based combat. Nexomon distinguishes itself through its writing, which is very sharp, it's funny, and it's self-aware. However, the visuals are also very gorgeous. I love the creature designs, they're slick, they're colorful, and they're animated in combat. There's a healthy mix of cute, edgy, and bizarre. While not as iconic as Pokemon designs, Nexomon still manages to create a coherent bestiary that doesn't feel like cheap knockoffs. Mechanically, it does introduce a stamina-based combat instead of PP. Each move drains stamina, forcing the players to think more strategically about pacing and move economy. There's also a robust catching mechanic with percentage-based odds and a skill check minigame that makes every capture feel very, very tense. It doesn't reinvent the genre by any means. It doesn't really need to. Nexomon is a polished and funny and earnest in love of its monster catching mechanics, while also refining the experience for players. And again, it's great on the Steam Deck. The spirit of this next game is really, what if Pokemon, but MMO. The game is called Temtem, and it's not just a homage, it's a full reimagining of the monster collecting genre as an online world with co-op play, player economies, housing, and competitive battle balances from the ground up. The world of Airborne Archipelago is beautiful and handcrafted with a focus on exploration, side quests, and a serious narrative about the human-monster coexistence, something I wish that Pokemon may have touched more on in its games. Combat is hard. There's a stamina system similar to the other games on this list that really discourages move spamming and encourages smart sequencing. The game uses a strict 2v2 format which multiplies synergy potential and demands that you actually think about your positioning, your support skills, and even your turn order. Moves are gated by cooldowns and stamina, meaning even basic battles actually require thought, something I really appreciate about this title. Temtem also leans hard into the MMO features. You can see other players running around, trade in real time, battle competitively in ranked ladders, and decorate your own homes. Something that feels really fun and cozy on the Steam Deck, and again, highly recommend it on this list. It's got some grind walls and balancing decisions that have drawn criticism, but I think overall Temtem is a remarkable game just to have in your Steam library, especially if you are going to run this on the Steam Deck. This next title is an absolute fan favorite. It's what if Pokemon was crossed with a Metroidvania. That is literally what Monster Sanctuary is in a nutshell. It's got side-scrolling pixel art monster catcher where the terrain actually matters just as much as your team. You don't just collect monsters, you actually use them to navigate the world. If you need to get to a high ledge, you're going to do double jump with one of your monsters. You need to burn some sort of bush, well then you're going to bring a fire-based ally. Each monster brings utility both in and out of battle, giving exploration real depth. Combat is turn-based and tactical. Instead of 1v1 duels, you battle in teams of 3 with synergy, buffs, debuffs, and combos all built in together as part of the central mechanic. Each monster has a massive skill tree, effectively letting you build multiple roles from a single creature. Want to make a healer into a tank? Spec it that way. Want to make a support unit into a poison and mana regen? Done. What sets Monster Sanctuary apart is its respect for player intelligence. The mechanics are laid bare. You're given all the tools to theory craft, plan builds, and experiment. Add in a stat tuning, gear, and runes, you've got an amazing team-based battler that actually rewards careful thinking over just smashing the A button in brute force. The story is light, but it's also very fun. It's focusing on ancient forces and bloodlines. But the real meat of this game is truly the battle system and exploration. And again, all this feels amazing both in your Steam library or on your Steam Deck. This next title is definitely unique. It's called Dice Folk, and it takes the monster taming genre and feeds it through a roguelike, which if you're into that, it's gonna be fun. You've got dice manipulation, and the result is really tight with tactical brilliance. It's a type of game that monsters really act on their own initiative. In Dice Folk, you roll the dice, literally, and choose which monsters act, and when, and which moves, and how the flow of combat then unfolds. You build a party of 3 chimeric creatures, part cute and definitely part creepy, and then you collect dice throughout the runs. Each dice face determines action type, attack, defense, movement, or specials. Your job is to slot and manipulate dice so your monsters act in the right sequence while denying your opponents the critical moves they need to win. It's fast, it's deep, and it's surprisingly cerebral. You're constantly balancing risk and dice placement, synergy between creatures, and turn order, like a tabletop deck builder crossed with tactics, RPG, and some beautiful monsters. You don't just catch the monsters the usual way. You recruit them mid-run and build your party as you ascend the increasingly dangerous floors. It's a really fun game on the Steam Deck, and again, as I said with other titles, even if you don't have a Steam Deck, I do think it's definitely worth to be in your library. Presentation wise, Dice Folks looks like a dark fantasy pop-up book. The animations are stylish and expressive, and the whole game just oozes indie charm, and it's got a fresh little kick on the whole monster collector genre. The last game on this list does not by any means indicate that it's a subpar game compared to the others. This game is called Disc Creatures, and it's actually a one-man passion project that really draws inspiration from the Game Boy Color era, from games like Dragon Quest Monsters, Pokemon Crystal, and Robopon. The premise: you're a Disc Ranger, a licensed creature user in a highly regulated society where battling, raising, and using creatures is just part of the job. What Disc Creatures does so well is the charm and depth depth through its simplicity. The visuals are truly a minimalist dream, and the UI is very old school, yet the battles are packed with tactical decisions that really outclass some of the older games. Each party has 3 active disc creatures, and battles often hinge on exploiting quirks and move interactions, statuses, and typing, not brute force damage races. Creature designs are abstract and sometimes surreal. There's a strong dose of Shin Megami Tensei weirdness mixed into there somewhere, but there's also a dose of cuteness. Everything is very cohesive though. The overworld is filled with quirky NPCs, small side quests, and hidden disc creatures, and a sense of world building that's deceptively deep. Don't let the retro visuals throw you off. It's a great game to have in your library and a great game to actually use on the Steam Deck, especially if you love the creature collector genre. And that concludes our top 10 Steam games that are like Pokemon, just better. Thanks for watching. It really means a lot to me. If you want to support this channel, check out my merch. I did drop a really cute hat. It's called Derp Mander. It's basically a derpy Charmander on a hat. It's kind of fun, kind of cute, kind of cool. Appreciate you watching. Thanks for all the comments. And again, tell your grandma I said hi. And have a great weekend. Until next time, see you then. Peace.